Ignition sequence start. 3, 2, 1.
Houston, we have a problem.
Liftoff. We have a liftoff.
We copy you on the ground. You got a bunch of guys about to turn blue.
What you're seeing here is a mirage.
Ignition sequence start. 3, 2, 1.
Houston, we have a problem.
Liftoff. We have a liftoff.
We copy you on the ground. You got a bunch of guys about to turn blue.
What you're seeing here is a mirage.
Welcome, everybody, to another episode of Iconoclast. Or Iconoclasm. Sorry. Can't even get the name of the show right. And I got to do this first, and then we'll get your thumbnail up there. And we should be good to go. All right, welcome, everybody. Hope you guys are doing well. It's a lovely Saturday, and we'll get right into it. How this show works, it'll be a little talking, and then we will take your phone calls. You can jump on either through StreamYard, or we'll open the phone lines as well. So let us bring you aboard and make sure everything is good to go, which it should be. Let's see here. We've got this one. Yes. All right. Title of the show is episode number 2, Does Satan Exist? And, you know, it's a question that many have asked before, and maybe some people have a different answer than I do. Maybe not. Let's go over here, make sure we're all good to go. Hello, everybody. Welcome to the show. See who's in the chat. We've got, is this working, by the way? Great. Bad start to start. What's going on here with this? Let me check something. Unfortunately, I had a update on OBS, and now everything is screwed up. So that's not going to be fun. But let's see if we can get at least the chat to work. Okay, that should work. And we'll put this back up there. There we go. All right, good. Flat Smack says smack the like button. I agree with him. Satan cannot handle the truth. No, he cannot. He's out here. And let's get this stream on the YouTube algorithm. Like button is a free way to support the show. Hey, I like that. Man, this guy's, I didn't even pay him to say that. We've got Free Thinker says, yo, what's up? We've got the answer is no. Good night, folks. Thank you, Moxie. Made it quite easy for me. Yes, Rim Job is the devil, says Rune Dragon. We've got Hi Jaren from Average Man. You have high opinion of yourself, don't you? We've got Santi's World saying yes, he exists. Okay. And we've got the Earth is Satan's realm. Who by now can't tell. And we've got like. All right. Well, I'll give you my quick rundown, and then we'll go from there. And then you guys can call in and argue with me all you want. So I will say that, to me, Satan absolutely does not exist. Okay? Absolutely, without a doubt, does not exist. Now, let me explain why. Because there is no such creature or being or something like that that is out there terrorizing humanity as we speak, right? And maybe that's not your belief. You say, oh, no, well, he acts through his agents, or he acts through demonic forces, or he takes over people's souls or something like that. But let me explain what I think is going on here, because here's the problem with saying Satan doesn't exist. The first thing you hear from people is, well, if Satan doesn't exist, why do people worship him? Right? I'm sure you've heard this before. And you have to kind of bring to their attention, well, okay, so that you understand, if, say, the George Bush family believes in Satan, and so they decide to sacrifice a baby for Satan on the 1st of January, whatever, and they sacrifice said baby, and they say their seance or whatever, and they ask for more power and more prestige or whatever for the next year. And if over the course of the next year they have more power and more prestige, then of course at that point they're going to feel like they did well and that they provided Satan what he wanted, and therefore they're going to go and they're going to have another sacrifice at the end of the year. Now, if they don't have a good year, then what do you think they're going to do? Do you think they give up their belief in Satan? No. They would think that they did something wrong, and so the next year they would sacrifice 2 babies or 3. Okay? So whether or not people believe in Satan doesn't necessarily make that character real. Okay? It could just be a figment of people's imagination. Okay? I truly believe 100% that if you do not believe that demons or Satan exist, then they don't exist. So if you're somebody who thinks they exist, just know that maybe you are kind of manifesting that, because I don't say that they exist and they don't interrupt or interact in my life at all, right? Which makes sense. Now, let me explain why the elite pretend to worship Satan, okay? Is because you have to have both ends so that people choose one or the other. And they don't care if you choose to worship Satan, doesn't make Satan real. And they don't care if you choose to worship Jesus, doesn't make him God, right? It's just what they want from you. So the thing I also get is people saying, well, why does Google's logo have a 666? Why does CERN's logo have a 666? And to me, that's, quite simple. Again, they're playing with you. They've done it for thousands of years. Okay, this has been the hallmark of the leaders since the beginning of time. They probably used to use Yahweh as their fear tactic, and then people started to get old with that, and then they had to kind of cross over and start using Jesus, and then they wanted a nicer God, so they kind of said, okay, well, let's see if he can be nicer and more complacent, and then they've run with that. So again, this is all based on my theory that the world is a result of the religious standpoints as they are, right? So meaning if you look at the world and you look at, there's kind of evil overrunning the whole thing, and we don't get a lot of people who think we need to do much about it. Most people think we need to wait for Jesus, and that's truly what they believe. We have to wait for Jesus. And if you saw my show yesterday, I went into some detail about that guy from Rice Bowl Society who has all these crazy claims that seem to be Christian based, like that, slavery is not immoral, and eugenics, and he's going through all these things, but they're just, it's kind of what Christianity is supposed to be if you kind of follow the letter of the law. So when it comes down to Satan, we get a story that includes him in the Bible, but how many people, see if we can get this right in the chat, how many people did Satan kill in the Bible? Anybody? Satan exists in your head if you believe it. That's good, Rune. How many people did Satan kill in the Bible? Let's see if it gets it right first. Spy balloon was a psyop to take attention of whatever they're doing. That's a good one. That probably is true. So again, look up the definition of blasphemy. Blasphemy is not really, you'd have to be in that religion to be blasphemous. 0 is correct. Flayed Earth gets it right. Ding, 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 ding. I don't have any game show sounds. Sorry. If I did, I would do it. But, what is that?
How dare you?
Oh, all right. Just said dare. Yes, correct. So Satan kills 0 people in the Bible. And then you've got God who kills about 3.5 million if you don't count women and children and you don't count the flood. Okay. So this is a little bit of a weird thing. Why would that be? Okay. Also, just things that make Satan fake in my mind. If you actually faced God face to face and you were an angel, you were created by him or whatever, and there's God, it's the creator of all, God. Would you ever go against him? Would you ever compete against him? Nobody would. It doesn't make any sense. You clearly cannot beat God, so why would you go against him? So the idea of Satan, and he's falling from heaven, and he's got his third of his angels with him, and they're going to compete against God is ludicrous on its face. Why would anybody believe that? Or then we have to believe Satan is the dumbest character in the history of the world. Same thing with him betting God in the story of Job. again, who would bet God? It'd be like betting Marty McFly in 1960 or something about a 1985 game. Well, of course he's going to get it right. He's been there. So you would never bet God. You would never have a gamble with God saying, oh, I think I can do this, this, and this. And God's like, I don't think you can. I think that, well, God can see the future, right? So why would you be betting God? So these stories of Satan just don't jive with reality at all. If there was some being right now that was in charge of this world, why not just kill everybody? Why not just destroy everything? Why is there some semblance that looks like there is some cohesion going on in the world, or that there's at least growth? And it's not all just Satan's world. If it is, what is he doing? Where's Satan now? Where's Satan at this moment? And I think a lot of people have in their heads this vision of Satan, the being. What we have to understand is Satan means the adversary. Okay. And as I've said before, inside you, in my opinion, is the creator. And if you allow yourself to go in other directions, it's like the old, devil on a shoulder, angel on a shoulder, and you're picking between the two. And it's just an adversary. It's not a physical being. There is no devil with a pitchfork who's going to rule. Is he going to rule in hell? Doesn't make any sense, does it? Or will he be thrown into hell as well, and he'll be equal to us? Or will he be in charge of hell? Kind of gets a little bit dicey there as well. But to me, no. It's just a simple no. He does not exist. It is a useful tool, because what you get when you talk about Satan is people who don't understand the actual implications. So, for instance, people who say they sell their soul to the devil. Okay? Some people sell their soul. What does that mean? Well, it means that, again, and this is going to be a little bit of a stretch for some people, but in my opinion, again, until I change my mind or whatever, in my opinion, I think that we end up judging ourselves. Okay? What I mean is that you will never, in my mind, you'll never face God at like a judgment chair, and he'll say, okay, you did this in your life and you did this in your life. No, I believe that you judge yourself, and you're the only person who knows everything inside you, knows everything you've done. And right now, if you're thinking to yourself, do I deserve to be in heaven? That is what Jesus was talking about. When Jesus talks about, to get to the kingdom, you have to get through me. You're going to have to get through you. You're going to have to get through that conscience that you have, that you've either turned your back on or you've followed and done the right thing. And it's not something you can fool yourself. You may be thinking in your head you can fool yourself, but you can't. A person who's killed somebody knows they killed somebody. A person who raped somebody knows they raped somebody. Okay? And you can repent and change your ways now so that you do feel by the end of your life that you've corrected for that mistake. Or you can not correct for it, and at the end of your life when you die, you'll probably face yourself and be like, oh shit, you're right, I didn't make it. All right, I'll go back again, try it again. So why I say that is because you are the thought of this external God to me is really disappearing. It's what they want from you, right? So they want you to believe in an external God. They want you to believe in everything outside yourself, that God is somewhere right now, that Satan is somewhere, that they're playing chess. You've seen that image that has like the chess players, and it's God or Satan and Jesus, and they're like playing chess. I mean, I hope nobody really thinks that that's going on. You don't think that Satan is somewhere moving chess pieces, right? What people forget is that we do have free will here. So again, what is Satan doing right now? Everybody's got free will. Is he just going around looking for people that are going to accept him in, and then he works with them? No, it just doesn't make any sense. What selling your soul means is when you've made that cognitive choice to go against what's right. So, for instance, if somebody showed up at the door right now and said, Jaron, $5 million for you to go away. We don't want you to do any more streams. Just tell everybody you're not going to do it anymore. You hate it, and be on your way. We don't want to see you do any more streams. Okay. At that point, he leaves. I have to decide. So at that point, in my own self, I have to decide whether or not I want to take this $5 million. Now, if I do, will I feel like I've sold my soul to the devil? Yes. That's exactly what you would be doing, right? You're selling out yourself for the bad. You're not standing up for what's true, what's right. You are selling your soul to the devil. So that's what people mean when they say that they sell their soul. People always show that one video clip of, I forgot who it is, some famous singer or something, who says they sold their soul. But what really they're talking about is a metaphorical selling of their soul. Not like Satan came to them and sat across the table and said, here, sign here. Nothing like that takes place. Now, again, here's the weird thing about humans is we can conjure up some crazy ass shit. So like I said before, if I go out in my garage, turn off all the lights, put a pentagram on the ground, a bunch of candles, and I read the Bible backwards inside of a circle, I don't doubt that something might come about. But I wouldn't be able to tell you whether that was external or whether it was internal and I brought it about. I think that we are much more amazing, much more gifted, much more powerful than any of us know, you know? So that's what they mean by selling your soul to the devil. Because again, nobody's ever seen the devil. Now, besides the one thing I still trip out on, that Codex Gigas is the craziest story. I'll just show you real quick, just because it's a crazy story, and it's the one that's never sat well with me. If I could find out the truth of that story, that'd be awesome. But you'll never find out the truth. What's going on here? There you go. So Codex Gigas, it's in my store, by the way. If you go to shop.jeranism.com, you can get the $20 access to the 2700 book Telegram group, and in that PDF Telegram group is the Codex Gigas. So the Codex Gigas, I'm seeing if I can find a picture of it. Here we go. So this Codex Gigas, oh, I hate the new OBS. Wow, that's what? Hold on, I think that they said something about this, that you'd have to hook up all your monitors. So it's going to be the left monitor, ultra wide, yes. Automatic, okay. Do it. Oh, it's not bad. All right. So this is the Codex Gigas, and it's this huge. It's like 3 feet long, takes like multiple people to carry it. And the story behind it is insane. So the story is that there was this guy, Herman the Recluse. He was a priest or a monk or something. And he got in trouble for doing something. And they were going to kill him the next day or something like that. He had basically, by the next day, he was going to be dead. So he said to them, well, please give me another chance. What if I write the world's greatest Bible, front to back? I write the whole thing. I include all these things. And they said, what? By when? He said, by tomorrow, it'll be the greatest book ever written. They're like, sure, if you can write the Bible by tomorrow, go ahead. So then he went to work and got done with like a couple pages and realized he had no chance of ever getting it done the next day. So the story is that he prayed to the devil to come finish the book, at which point the next morning the priest or whoever walked into this jail cell, and there sitting in the jail cell was this book, completed in one night. And scholars have gone through it, and researchers, and they've actually looked page by page, and I've looked page by page, and I have to tend to agree with them that the writing is all done by the same exact person. Okay, there's no change. And they've done a study on how long it would take, and it would take one person, I forgot if it's without eating or drinking or with eating and drinking, but whatever, it'd take one person like 25 years to write this book. So it's just a crazy story. Again, how much truth do you put to it? I don't know. That is the legend of the Codex Gigas, and supposedly these are self-portraits by the devil. So this is what I guess he looks like. Funny looking little guy. But yeah, it's called the Devil's Bible. Let's see if this has got any details that I missed for you. Wow, cookie's good. So there you go. It was written by a monk in Bohemia during the early 13th century. However, the behemoth manuscript, sitting 36 inches tall, 20 inches wide, close to 9 inches thick, is famous not only for its size, featuring a large full-scale rendition of Satan. The book was given the nickname The Devil's Bible and inspired legends about the true nature of its making. In its entirety, the Codex Gigas contains the Old and New Testament, the Antiquities, the Jewish War by Flavius Josephus, the Encyclopedia, the Chronicle of Bohemia by Cosmas, and some other medical texts, and a collection of shorter works. It's also believed to have contained the Rule of Saint Benedict, but that work has since been lost. The most striking piece of the manuscript is the middle of the text, a large and terrifying portrait of the devil himself. The image of the devil is opposite a rendering of the kingdom of heaven. The size of the devil is striking as he takes up the entirety of hell. He is depicted as having large claws, red-tipped horns, a green head, small eyes and red pupils, and 2 long red tongues. At the end of the 30 Years' War, Sweden looted Prague Anyway, it was lost a few times and then found again. So it tells about the legend goes it was completed in a single night by a monk known as Herman the Recluse. After breaking his monastic vows, the monk was sentenced to death by being walled up. Attempting to save his own life, he made a deal that he would write a book complete with all the world's human knowledge in exchange for his freedom. The catch was he had only one night to complete it. Facing this impossible task, the monk called on the devil to help complete the book in exchange for his soul. The book was finished with the help of Satan himself, and a large portrait was included in the middle of the book, supposedly as a tribute to its author. Although the actual author of the book may never be known, the unique portrait has been drawing attention since its creation over 700 years ago. And even, again, one of the crazier stories is when you look into how long it would have taken somebody to make that. So pretty crazy little book, or big book. And that's an ugly, ugly Satan there. So again, what did I bring that up for? Nothing really much. But I just cannot see it being possible that there's any being such as Satan. It wouldn't even really make sense if you picture God. Why would he leave Satan here? If Satan is out deceiving the world, why wouldn't God just take out Satan? I mean, we're told all these really fantastical ideas that don't really seem to jive. That just doesn't make sense to me. And especially because God flooded the world, according to the Bible. And when he did, he said that the reason why everybody was corrupted is because of Satan. So I've always described it as an example. Imagine that, I buy 1,000 puppies. Okay, so I've got 1,000 puppies running around, and then I have my older son, take care of the puppies. Hey, you're in charge of watching these puppies sometimes. And he goes through with them and he just kicks them in the face and he turns them against each other and he turns them into rabid fighting dogs. So the next time I look down there, now there's 1,000 puppies, but they're all gnawing at each other, fighting, barking, biting people. They're miserable. They're, basically a lost cause at this point. They're going to be tough to train. So I decide, you know what? I'm just going to flood these puppies because they're corrupted now and they're bad puppies and I don't like them. So I flood the puppies, but now imagine that I start having new puppies come along and I just leave my son down there to be with the new puppies. Nobody in their right mind would think that's not retarded. People would say, what are you doing? Your son is the one who corrupted these last puppies. Why don't you pick somebody else? Why don't you get him out of here? Anything. So again, the idea of God just constantly wanting to fool us or to just leave that, a deceiver down here who's doing the things that we're told Satan does, which is basically all the evil in the world and the sacrificing of babies and things. Why would God leave that being here? It just doesn't make a lot of sense to me. Never has. And come to find out, it probably isn't the case, that there's no such being as Satan. Again, why would there be? So I didn't know if I had a couple things I wanted to bring up here just talking about, again, circumcision is more evidence that I don't think God wrote the Bible. Describes God as choosing circumcision to be his way of telling his people, telling Abraham to go and circumcise all the people in the village and all the people that are part of this covenant. And we read last week that it says at some point that he, and so again, what is Satan, right? Is Satan just the embodiment of evil? People are that. Think of the evil, wicked people in this world. We don't need a Satan. People are evil enough. Okay? So the idea of Satan is really just the adversary. It's those that are going against God. Now, is there people against God in the world? Yes. So if you want to call them working on behalf of Satan or satanic, I would agree with you. That seems to be, to me, true. And I'll use the word, that's satanic. That's, from the devil. I believe that is the case. So again, and we don't have to all agree on things. Some of you might say, no, I believe Satan does exist. It's just, then I would ask the question of where is he? So he exists in like invisible land and he just kind of comes by and like tries to get into people's souls or something. And again, this is the crazy thing about religions is that just like Rob Skiba told me, he knows God's real because the Bible opened to a certain page one day and he knows that he's seen demons. And then I've seen Muslims tell me that they've seen Muhammad and that they've been haunted by the jinn. Well, in every society, everybody would have their own story of who haunted them and who came to them. It wouldn't, somebody in China isn't going to have Jesus come to them. It's going to be Buddha or whatever. So you start to see that really everyone, this is why the new logo for the show, which, I don't know if I like it yet, but has all the religions at the top, because all the religions are basically worshiping the same God. They just don't know it or are too puffed up with personal pride to recognize it, because everybody serves their religion as religion to self rather than a religion to others, right? So a religion should be about leading others to God, not being right yourself. So what do we get from a lot of people is I'm right about their beliefs. Now, I believe that everyone's free to believe whatever religion they want. Okay. I think that, barring that it goes against the rights, kind of like I did in my creed the other day. As long as you're not going against the rights of others, it doesn't matter who you worship or what you worship. But if you want to talk to me about it or ask me what I believe, you're going to get my opinion on that. So we also have God doing some Satan-like things. We talked about Chronicles, right? And Samuel, where they're basically replaced back and forth. For some reason in the Bible, you keep having Satan also be the truth teller, right? So Satan says in Genesis, no, you will not surely die when you eat the fruit. You'll just know the difference between good and evil. Whereas God said, when you eat that, you'll surely die. So again, it could be seen as, well, really, Satan was the one who was more honest there, as they didn't actually die at that moment, which would have been what they would have thought it meant. Not that, if you eat from that tree, you will surely die in 900 years, right? That probably wasn't the gist of it. And I'm trying to find that verse here just so we can read that. And where are we at here? Man in the Garden of Eden, temptation and fall. So when Satan comes and says, here we go. She's bone of my bone. Now the serpent was more cunning than any other beast in the field, which the Lord God had made. He said to the woman, did God say, you shall not eat of any tree in the garden? The woman answered the serpent, of the fruit of the trees of the garden we may eat, but of the fruit of the tree in the middle of the garden, God said, you shall not eat it. Neither shall you touch it, lest you die. But the serpent said to the woman, no, you shall not die, for God knows that when you eat of it, your eyes will be opened, and you will be awake. You will be like God, knowing good and evil. Now the woman saw that the tree was good for food and pleasing to the eye, and so on and so forth. She took of it and ate of it. Now again, to me, the weird thing is here, did Satan really deceive her even? He basically told her to eat from the tree, even though God had said not to, but he kind of gave her the truth. So it's one of those things that a lot of people, there's actually people who believe that Satan is the good God and that he brought light. I'm certainly not one of those. I think a lot of this is definitely make-believe, certainly make-believe. But they want it to be true, the elite, the controllers, because if people believe in this Bible, then they become like Jesus, pacifists. They are waiting for Jesus to come back. Jesus said some things that just you can't imagine him saying. There'll be wars and rumors of wars. That's a dumb thing for him to say. To say I'll be back in this lifetime shortly, I'll be back quickly, is not a good thing to say. It makes it look kind of false. The Beatitudes are something that, again, everybody loves the Beatitudes. I wanted to bring up one thing real quick. So there's the story of the adulterer, the woman who had extramarital sex. Let me see if I can find that story. Jesus and the adulterer. Is that the right way? Jesus and the woman taken in adultery. Yeah, John. Wait. So, and let me see. Jesus and because here's the thing about Christians. They tell me that the Bible is inerrant, right? But from what I've gathered now, it seems like there's certain works in the Bible that have already been admitted to have not been in the originals. That the overwhelming support, or the overwhelming belief, accepted belief by all scholars, religious and secularist, is that it is not part of the original manuscripts. So it's been added after. And a lot of people like it. Just trying to see, to go where Jesus said to go and sin no more. So Jesus commands the adulterous woman. So I think it's John 8:11. Let me see if this is the one that should be taken out. Yes, I believe this is it. So John 8:11. Let me look it in here. So what I find funny, though, is that if that's been admitted and it hasn't been removed from the Bible, then isn't the Bible errant? I mean, again, you're never going to get any of these guys to admit that. They're not going to get to admit that it's got contradictions. But to me, that would be a huge sign if you're already saying that the Bible was actually written and has been passed on for years and years and years, but it's now been determined that there's not something in the original manuscripts, meaning it's been added to by scribes, which means it's no longer inerrant. The Bible has errors. And once it has errors, well, then hopefully people see the side that they should see, which is that anything with errors, you wouldn't be expected to believe it. Okay? If you could prove that there was errors in the Bible, like for instance, the oldest manuscript we have doesn't have these certain verses in it, then probably, not probably, but can you imagine being required to believe any of it? I can't. So 8:11 says, when they continue to ask him, so yeah, this one here, and I believe that the whole thing they say doesn't exist in there. And it kind of does ruin, I guess, the flow of the story. So I'm going to look right before it. We've got Nicodemus, who had come to him at night, who was one of them, said to them, "Does our law judge a man unless it's first give him a hearing and know what he does?" They answered and said to him, "Art thou a Galilean? Search the scriptures and see that out of Galilee arises no prophet." And then if you go to chapter here, again, therefore, Jesus spoke to them, saying, "I am the light of the world. He who follows me does not walk in darkness." So it seems like, maybe this chapter 8 is added. But let me just make sure that it's not the story in another one. Okay. Because I'm sure, sometimes it's in multiple Gospels. I don't know how to spell adulterer. And yeah, there we go. Okay. Because I might be I thought it was in Mark or something. Now it's John. Okay. So the story of the woman caught in adultery, John 7:53 through 8:11, is arguably one of the most beloved Jesus stories in the New Testament, which includes the familiar quotation, "Let him who is without sin cast the first stone." However, the story is missing from the ancient manuscripts of John, as noted already by Early. So here's the Daily Beast wrote an article about it. One of the most famous moral teachings involving Jesus and an adulterous woman didn't become part of the Bible until at least 100 years after the Gospel of John was written. So again, that doesn't seem to be then inspired. A lot of people asking, does it belong in the Bible? And again, the story of the woman caught in adultery is found in John 7:53-11. This section of scripture, sometimes referred to as the periscope adulterage, has been the center of much controversy over the years. At issue is its authenticity. Did the Apostle John write John 7:53-8:11, or is the story of the adulterous woman forgiven by Jesus a later uninspired insertion into the text? The Textus Receptus includes John, and the majority of the Greek texts do. That is the reason the King James Version of the New Testament includes the section as an original part of the Gospel of John. However, modern translations such as the NIV and the ESV include the section but bracket it as not original. This is because the earliest, and most would say the most reliable, Greek manuscripts do not include the story of the woman taken into adultery. The Greek manuscripts show fairly clear evidence that John was not originally part of John's Gospel. Among the manuscripts that do contain the section, either wholly or in part, there are variations of the placement. Some manuscripts place the periscope adulterage after John 7:36, others after John 21:25, and some place it in the Gospel of Luke. There is internal evidence, too, that John is not the original of the text. For one thing, the inclusion of 3 verses breaks the flow of John's narrative. Reading from John 7:52 to John 8:12, skipping the debated section, makes perfect sense. Also, the vocabulary used in the story of the adulterous woman is different from what is found in the rest of the Gospel of John. For example, John never refers to the scribes anywhere in his Gospel, except for in this one passage, John 8:3. There are 13 other words in this short section that are found nowhere else in John's Gospel. It certainly seems as if somebody along the way, a scribe, added the story of Jesus into the John's Gospel in a place he thought it would fit well. Most likely the story had been circulating. It is unknown if it's an oral tradition, and the scribe felt that since it was already accepted as truth by consensus, it was appropriate to include it into the text of Scripture. The problem, of course, is that truth is not determined by consensus. The only thing we should consider Scripture is that which the prophets and apostles wrote as they spoke from God and were carried by the Holy Spirit. So again, it's just interesting because that tends to lead you to the belief that how could it be inerrant if there's a section here that doesn't belong? But it's a good story nonetheless, and they returned to the house, but Jesus went to the Mount of Olives. And at daybreak, he came again to the temple, and all the people came to him, sitting down, and began to teach them. Now the scribes and Pharisees brought a woman caught in adultery, and setting her in the midst, said to him, Master, this woman has been caught in adultery, and in the law of Moses commanded you to stone such persons. What therefore dost thou say? Now they say this to test him, in order that they might be able to accuse him. But Jesus, stooping down, began to write with his finger in the ground. But when they continued asking him, he raised himself and said to them, Let he who is without the first stone among you, he who is without sin, cast the first stone among you. And again, stooping down, he began to write on the ground. But hearing this, they went away, one by one, beginning with the oldest. And Jesus remained alone with the woman standing in the midst. And Jesus, raising himself, said to her, Woman, where are they? Has no one condemned thee? And she said, No one. And Jesus said, Neither will I condemn thee. Go thy way, and from now on sin no more. So it's a really nice story, but again, this is more evidence that it's not God of the Old Testament. Jesus here is completely different than the God of the Old Testament is the one who told you to stone women who are guilty of adultery. So he says he never changes, he always is the same. So then he came to earth and then changes and isn't the same, and now says, no, we're not going to kill her for that. It just tells you that Jesus is a different character to me. And I think that goes without saying. In fact, the stretches to try and make him the same character are embarrassing for the most part. So what do I think is going on ultimately is that you've got a very wicked and elite and controlling group, and they've learned how to manipulate the minds of the masses through medical stuff, through education, indoctrination, through religion, right? So what they do is through all those avenues, they kind of got you pushed into the areas that will keep you away from things that I think are true. Again, how true is manifesting? How true is a group thought? I think vary. But they're hiding this from you. How? By pushing you to science or pushing you to religion, because both of those don't believe in the middle road. Don't believe that you can, have ESP, or don't believe that you can have some sort of extra sensory response, or that you can even do remote sensing, right? People think that's demonic if you do remote sensing. Well, the reason why is because they've been taught it. So again, to me, my whole goal here is I'm not going to let other men give me my belief system when all the other men are lying. Okay? So from the Catholic Church to pastors to scientists to Neil deGrasse Tyson to, you name it. It seems to me that we're in a very perverted world. There's different ways people can go about making money, and some people have found that God is a very lucrative business. Joel Osteen with his $14 million house, and Creflo Dollar with his, multi-million-dollar plane, and all these guys are just living the good life. I wanted to show you a quick little video here that I found funny from yesterday. And, funny and good and exactly on. Let's listen to it here. This is some comedian. I don't know his name, but I couldn't find his name. But let's watch this because he gets it right on. This is what is actually going on. How many people recognize this? Not many. How about here?
Well, there's one thing I'll say about organized religions. That is that their outdated belief systems, while at their conception were well-meaning, have been twisted by the leaders of men throughout history into systematic brainwashing machines whose only goals are power and money, and it's proven in their own rhetoric that glorifies poverty, and individuality, and tells good people who don't know any better that the best they can hope for out of this life is to lead a quiet, unopinionated existence of servitude in the name of an invisible man in the sky, who's represented on earth by a bunch of sex-starved weirdos who live tax-free in marble mansions, and who guilt and frighten their followers into giving them money that's supposed to be donated to the poor, but is oftentimes spent on speaker systems, gold incense holders, and 30-foot statues that can't be eaten or slept in, but are supposed to represent the compassion of the religious establishment. Establishments represent the idea that we just shut the up and do what we're told for the rest of our lives. By the time we die, we're going to go to a magical land filled with waterfalls and talking seahorses. But it's all that does not exist. We need to emancipate ourselves from the guilt and pseudo-morals of the first world, break open the doors of the church, let homeless people sleep in there the way Jesus would have done, start finally practicing what you push on others, and then go in the backyard, smoke a joint, and jack off to the stars, because that'll get us closer to heaven than praying to a fucking statue ever will. That just kind of slipped.
So again, I just looked at the chat, but remember, if you're a Christian and you're very closely held to that belief, you shouldn't watch this show. Okay? Because this show is for people that have grown beyond that. And it's a natural growth when you realize that if this were a movie, you would be yelling at the screen of the obvious nature that the Satan isn't real, that God didn't write the book. You'd be yelling at the screen. But because you're part of it and you were indoctrinated into it, you just can't see it yet. Once you get outside of it, once you give up on the idea that, oh, everything outside the Bible is from Satan, there is no way that God put a book here just for one group of people. Okay, it just doesn't even jive at all, doesn't make any sense in the world. God would not depend on people to carry the book around. Think of how the book came to the West. The Pope sent people here and told them to capture the natives, and if they wouldn't profess Jesus as their savior, to kill them or to put them out to pasture. Do you think that this is God's plan? It's embarrassing to me. And then they say, what did I just see somebody say? Can't prove where anything is real or not, but you for sure will have a much better life if you live by what the Bible teaches. So the Bible teaches you that you should take turtle doves and bring them in front of the altar of God and break their necks and drip their blood on the altar. So just because you're thinking of the good verses doesn't mean you can leave out the bad ones. So Jesus tells some lady he's going to kill her children because she sacrificed food to the wrong gods. So again, are you going to include everything in there, or are you just including, what do you mean you're going to have a better life? Let me show you that guy from yesterday. You tell me how good of a life this guy's living. His name is Rice Bowl Society. Okay, I think that's his name. Rice Bowl Society. Yes, here. Okay, so this is Rice Bowl Society. Oh, you can't see very well. Let's see, move it over this way until you can see it. There. Okay. So, I mean, this is a Christian, and he believes in the Bible. And this is what comes out of people who believe that. First of all, so don't tell me you're going to have a good life if you're going to end up like this guy. This guy has got the most backwards theology I've ever seen in my life. Okay? First of all, he says slavery is not morally wrong. Okay? Slavery is morally wrong. It is the holding of a person against their will. That is morally wrong. Everything about it is morally wrong. Not if you're a Christian. Why? Because God talks about slavery, advocates for slavery, tells slaves to be kind to their masters, even if they're mean to them, that they should always do it for conscience sake or something. Ridiculous. God would never say that. God would never tell somebody to be good to their captor just because, even if they're being rude to them. It just doesn't even make sense. Why would people believe this? The idea of indoctrination and brainwashing itself is not wrong. Parents always indoctrinate their children by instilling and enforcing their beliefs on them. The idea of teaching a person and proposing an idea to another person in and of itself is indoctrination. A school, for example, is an indoctrination camp. There are good and bad forms of indoctrination like there are schools. Books and other forms of media brainwash people into new ideas and beliefs. The irony is that people who say indoctrination brainwashing is wrong are themselves indoctrinated and brainwashed by liberals to believe that it's wrong. The Bible indoctrinates people, and so does the church. Great. Let's celebrate that. Whatever. I don't know what's wrong with you. There is nothing wrong with having a cult. Yes, there is. There's very much wrong with having a cult. But they consider what Christianity espouses is a cult. That's what it wants. It wants a cult. It wants a cult that all believes the same thing, that only says the same thing. You're not allowed to go outside that. You have here, I don't support free speech. Why? I think we should censor and ban things that harm society and subvert the culture and people. I don't want to have to debate others and entertain the idea that pedophilia, for example, is a good thing. I think we should do exactly what Hitler did, where he burned pornographic literature, degenerate material, censoring our enemies, and protecting people is important. I don't want people to promote LGBT and feminism at all, and all those things should be rightfully censored. I mean, this is ridiculous. Ridiculous. But who does he sound like? Who else wanted to have only his rules there, only his laws? Don't pray to other gods. Don't do it. He kind of sounds like God here. The idea of propaganda is morally justified. Again, this person doesn't realize that the other people can be in power who have other beliefs, and then they can dictate to you what propaganda should be allowed, that you should be their slave based on what you're saying. This person doesn't promote the free market or capitalism for whatever reason. And then gives the dumbest explanation why. I don't think children should be allowed to be sold crack cocaine. Okay. What part of capitalism says they should be? Don't think that's in there. There is no such thing as private property or ownership under the state. How about this? You go down here and he says, Klaus Schwab was right, to be honest, when he said, the people do not have the right to own property. You will own nothing and be happy. Klaus Schwab was right, to be honest. Why is this person acting? Because this is what people who believe in the Bible ultimately have to come to. Now, again, I'm not saying you believe this if you believe in the Bible, but if you don't, you're not following the Bible, because this is what it leads to. We should not execute Down syndrome people, but we should ban them from breeding. Now he's into eugenics. Freedom is bad. Freedom is enslavement to sin. I don't think we should allow people to do what they want in society. Freedom is liberalism. Based on the reactions I'm getting. So anyway. So it's just funny. I mean, if you read the Bible, you have a better life. Well, which parts? Are you talking about just Jesus' words or what? Jesus says in there, where 2 or more people are gathered, anything they ask in his name will be given to them. It's just a false statement. So again, is there something we're missing there or something? Well, yeah, but as is, it's false, right? We can agree with that. So certainly there's issues there. And we are getting close to the hour, so we'll start taking your calls. If you want to call in, please, I'd love to hear from you. I think we'll set the clock at 4 minutes today. Sounds about right. 3 seems too short. And I've been reading the Bible, and it's actually very weird and interesting. Yes. No, I mean, you should read it. Here's the thing. If you have not read the Bible, one thing you need to do is remove the idea that it's God's word. Okay? Because remember, that's been indoctrinated. That's been given to you. So you have to imagine what a handicap you have. You were born here. You started growing up. At some point, somebody handed you the Bible and said, this is God's word. And you read it with that beer goggle on. So the problem with that is that you're going to take everything that's said and be very reverent about it. Oh, it must be good news because God's saying it. So erase that from your head as best as you can and say, I'm just going to read, starting at Genesis, read the Old Testament and see what I think. And what you'll quickly realize is that God cannot be worshipped as God. You are doing damage to your own soul, to whatever chance you have of an afterlife. In my opinion, there's no way. First of all, I accuse God of killing nobody. 0. And you should accuse God of killing 0. Why? Because you don't have any evidence. If you're calling this book evidence, then you believe men who told you God killed people. You believe men who said God killed people for picking up sticks. You believe men who said that God sent a she-bear to kill 42 children. So do you think that that's a safe bet to accuse your creator of the worst possible crimes because men wrote it in a book? When did God come to you and tell you he wrote this book? When? When did he tell the Catholic Church which books to pick for canon? When did God explain that which letters of Paul should be included? Because God doesn't seem to be part of that equation at all. It seems to be man. Okay? Even they changed already. The gospel of Jesus Christ is the gospel of the kingdom of God. They've changed it to mean the gospel is Jesus coming here and dying for your sins, and now all you have to do is believe in him. That's all been changed. So clearly the book has been changed. They took out God's name, some whatever it was, 700 times, and replaced it with Lord. So we know that the book has been changed. So why would you hold on to it? Why would you adhere to something that you know has been changed? Don't you see that's the test? Can't you tell that would be the test? The test would never be, here's a book. Some people say it was written by me, so as long as you believe those people, you'll go to heaven. If you can't see what a ridiculous notion that is, or the idea that if I'm a good person my whole life and I don't accept God of the Old Testament, or I don't accept Jesus as my savior, but I'm a good person. I don't steal, I don't rape, I don't murder, and then I die, to think that my chances of going to heaven are less than pedophile Bob, who rapes children and likes little kids and does all kinds of mean shit and ends up killing some people. But then on his final day, his final week, he finds Jesus. He accepts Jesus as his personal savior, and he accepts God and loves God. And then that person goes to heaven. That's what you literally have to believe if you believe in Christianity. You literally have to believe that. Otherwise, why would you? Then if I can just be a good person and go to heaven, then why wouldn't I just do that? Why would I have to follow the book at all? But if I can't do that, then my story is true, right? Because you would say, if I said to you, hey, here's somebody who's done a bunch of murders and rapes, and in their final week, they find Jesus, what do you think happens? And you'd be like, oh, they go to heaven. So your own story doesn't jive. There's no way that can be true. And it's just, again, the ideas that Christianity puts forth as far as there's this God who wants worship. God doesn't want worship, then he wouldn't be a God. God does not need worship. God does not need anything. So to think that he needs worship, and then he has to have blood sacrifice, and he has to have foreshadowing, and he has to send his son, and he can't, all these things that God has to do are humans applying human logic to the infinite, right? It's just kind of petty. And so my problem is I've never accepted any revelation from any human about God. Not Dean Odell, who said that 3 days before 9/11, God came to him and told him that a plane would be flying into buildings in New York. Sure, Dean. I don't believe that. I don't believe my wife's father when he told me that Jesus came and sat next to him on a plane and told him the name of an orphanage should be Cross Point Ministries. And then we find out years later that he's cheated on her mom like 20 times and is basically a dirtbag. So you're like, oh, that's what I need to do to have Jesus. So Jesus would come and talk to him? No, these people are making shit up, or they believe it in their own head. But it's certainly not happening. It's certainly not taking place like that. God does not go and talk to Dean Odell and tell him what's going to happen at New York on 9/11. And he doesn't talk to others like that. So again, another thing that we have to recognize is if somebody came to you today and said to you, hey, God gave me this download or whatever, or God told me to write this, and hand it out to humanity and tell them it's from God, you would yell, absolutely not. What are you talking about? You're not doing that. But just because it's done 2,000 years ago, you accept it. Not only do you accept it, it's your entire worldview. It's who you are. It's what you're banking on for your salvation. But all it is things that a man has taught you. And to me, there can be no bigger folly. Can you imagine that your whole entire goal here, God would just want people to come here, read the book, sit in a corner, and go to heaven. Don't do anything. Live a very uninformed, unimpressive life. And again, we'll do this one more time just because he says it himself here. Listen again. Whoops, wrong way. Oh, come on. This way, here. Go.
Well, there's one thing I'll say about organized religions, that is that their outdated belief systems, while at their conception were well-meaning, have been twisted by the leaders of men throughout history into systematic brainwashing machines.
So it's been throughout history that they've learned the power of religion. Why? Because we each have a connection with the Creator. We're all looking for that Creator. So what did they do? They set it up for you. They gave you the Hegelian dialectic, right? They gave you the duality. Which one do you want to choose, God or religion? It's hit me recently that this is why they love debate. I mean, they must love Christian debates against atheism, because it doesn't matter where you end up there. You're in a belief system that doesn't believe the truth. Okay. So to them, that's what they're trying to keep you from. They don't want you to grow. They don't want you to realize how powerful we are when we come together through manifesting, through, what is it called? Morphic resonance, or through cymatics. There's so many things. I was just reading this book, the Sefer Ariad or something. You heard that? What's that called? I just read it yesterday, and there's like secrets in there supposedly, but I couldn't figure them out. I had some stuff written down, but seems like, some things like that the world was created through the word, right? Through speaking it. And then you really start to think of how powerful words are, that they're kind of living things. We don't even know what you would kind of describe them as. They're just maybe a name label or tag for some item, but we're able to, with one word, change people's minds. We're able to get them to think outside the box. If I told you right now, finish this sentence in your head. What if, okay, so right now, however many people there are here, there was that many different thoughts that just followed that. Created out of nothing. Created out of the words that I used. So really, it's a baffling thing what we can do. And many people think that the world might have been created like that. But to think that the world was created as this Bible tells you is a little bit insane to me. Again, people can believe what they want. If you believe in Christianity, I'm not saying you have to change your religion. Don't. Believe whatever fits your worldview. But I find it hard for me to see how this fits anybody's worldview. Again, people cannot answer certain questions, so they just dance around it. They can't answer the Romans 13. I heard somebody the other day trying to answer it, and it just gets really bad because they have to say, "Oh, well, Paul knew that all governments were bad." Okay, well then why wouldn't he write that in there? Why does it say all governments are placed there by God? It doesn't say the ones that are with king and queen that act in behalf of God. It says all. So to me, it's a no-brainer. What happened? The government wrote it. The government went to a scribe and said, "Hey, write in there this." But it doesn't say that. Well, write it or we'll kill you. Okay, I'll write it. And that became part of the Bible. It'd be that easy. So why would we fall for this kind of deception? But Romans 13 is one that nobody can correct, because if you read the entire thing, it's clearly written as it is, not as like, oh, back in those times. Again, it's talking about so I'm reading the end of chapter 12 here. It says, "Be not wise in your own conceits, to no man render evil for evil, but provide good things, not only in the sight of God." Again, God said eye for an eye, tooth for a tooth in the Old Testament. Now we have Paul saying, no, don't give man evil for evil. And then Jesus said, turn the other cheek, love your enemies. Okay, great. But he's coming back pretty soon to kill them. So did he forgive his enemies if he's going to come back and fill? Then he didn't forgive them. He lied and said he was going to, but he's going to come back and kill them anyway. It's a little weird. But provide those good things, not only in the sight of God, but also in the sight of all men. If it is at all possible, as far as if it be possible, as far as in you lies, be peace with all men. Do not avenge yourselves, beloved, but give place to the wrath. For it is written, vengeance is mine, I will repay, says the Lord. So now he's telling you that when somebody wrongs you, to not avenge yourself. Okay, why would you ever believe that God would say that? Do you think God expects you to not avenge yourself? Well, if you believe this, because vengeance is the Lord's, he will repay, says the Lord. But nobody's ever seen this, so it's just a pipe dream right now. If thy enemy is hungry, give him food. If he is thirsty, give him drink. For by doing thou wilt help heap coals of fire upon his head. Okay? Be not overcome by evil, but overcome evil with good. Again, it says that, but it also says, let evil be evil, let wicked be wicked. Very big contradiction. Nobody wants to see it. Chapter 13. Obedience is what it's called. And it says, let everyone be subject to the higher authorities, for there exists no authority except from God. So people try and argue this and be like, well, then that meant that there was other authorities, but if they weren't from God, then they weren't really an authority. What do you mean? That's not what clearly is being said here. It says that let everyone be subject to the higher authorities. It doesn't say sometimes they're bad. It just says let everyone. Okay? For there exists no authority except from God, meaning that anybody in an authoritative position is from God. You can't read that differently. And those who exist have been appointed by God. Then it just said, and those that exist, why would, if it was really the case of, and those that exist that are in good favor or that do so on behalf of the laws of God, no, they're saying that they exist. And everyone that exists is that one. So it says, therefore, he who resists the authority resists the ordinance of God, telling people if you go against governors, you go against God. And they that resist bring on themselves condemnation. So now people don't want to do that. They don't want condemnation on themselves for that. So for rulers are a terror, not to the good work, but to the evil. Now we're being told that the rulers, the people in charge, are there to go against the evil, not the good. Do thou wish then to not fear the authority? Then do what is good, and thou will have praise from it. Now do good, and you'll get praise from the government. I get that all the time. How about you? Do you get a lot of praise from the government for doing good? Me too. This book is so much truth in here. For it is God's minister to thee for good. So now it's saying that the government is God's minister to us for good. No, it's not. It's a complete destruction of humanity. So again, the Bible's false. But if thou dost what is evil, fear, for not without reason does it carry the sword. So now it's saying if you do anything bad, the government's going to come get you. For it is God's minister and avenger to execute wrath on him who does evil. Wherefore you must needs be subject, not only for the wrath, but also for conscience sake. Makes no sense. For this is also why you pay tribute, for there are ministers of God. For they are ministers of God. So now they're saying the tribute that we pay them, taxes or whatever, is because they're ministers of God's. Serving unto this very end, render to all men whatever is their due, tribute. To whom tribute is due, taxes to whom taxes are due, fear to whom fear, honor to whom honor. Again, this is the dumbest statement ever. What do you mean? What if Joe Biden comes out tomorrow and says that the income tax is going to 99%? If we go by the Bible, then we can't do anything. Because it says here, for this is why you pay tribute to them that are the ministers of God, serving unto this very end. Render to all men whatever is their due. Tribute to whom tribute, taxes to whom taxes. So if Joe Biden announces those taxes are due, he's not outside of this Bible for us to have to pay him. If we went by the Christian worldview, that we should read this book word for word, rather than just accept it for what it is, a collection of writings by ancient people who each gave their opinion of God and what he did and didn't do. But to take it in and say, oh yeah, well, this chapter God had to write, and God would never write that. If God wrote a book, chapter Romans 13, it would be something like, when your government is good and doing what I command of them, in that case, you should not go against your government. They are acting on behalf of me. However, at times, governments will become corrupt. At times, governments will become overbearing. They'll have too much power, at which point you have an obligation, you have a duty to overtake them and replace them with a better government. That's what God would say. Not all governments are placed there by God, and if you go against them, you go against God. No, that's not true. Everyone that I know that's a Christian went against the government when they said to put a mask on. So then what? Because according to this, they all have brought themselves for condemnation, right? So let's bring the phones on board and see who is going to come in. Let's do the phone lines first, then we'll do these. So it's tinyurl.com/cornerism. And then we've got the phone number is going to be 888-698-FLAT. And I'll tell you as soon as that's up, it'll be 1 minute. We'll hear the lady talk in a second. And the show. And start. And start. And if you hear a busy signal, it's because there's two people on hold already, so just call back. And we're going to initiate that call. There we go. And ready.
Ready to connect.
Indeed.
Click connect to show now.
Yes. Go ahead. And we're going to go StreamYard here.
Welcome, host.
Hello.
You are now in the host room and can manage your callers from the Call-in Studio web interface.
Thank you. Okay. Phone lines are open, and I'll put it on the screen in a second. 888-698-FLAT. And we're going to be in StreamYard in a second. And let's go enter studio. Okay, and we've got, oops, let me fix this. I didn't put in my virtual camera. There we go. Okay, and the virtual camera is working. Yes, Jeranism, yes. And we're in. And we're on. Okay. So let me get this line. Where is this one here? We're at this one. Okay, good. And let's see if the timer, timer needs to be fixed. We're going to change the timer to 4 minutes today. Let's go main, and yes, 3, this one. And we're going to change it to 4. 4? No, not 1. 4. Okay. See if that resets it. Can I get a 4 minute? Thank you. All right. 4 minutes you got. I'm going to kick you out if you are longer than that. And I should take off the sound effect. Play sound when timer ends. I'll just keep it quiet. Okay, so we're good there. Let's go to the phones and we will begin. All right, first caller's up. We got 727. Welcome to the show.
Hey, Jeranism.
What's up?
I just want to say I love your show. I've been watching you for a while.
Well, thank you.
But let me get straight to the point.
Okay.
The first subject you started talking about on your channel was Flat Earth, right?
Correct.
Yes, and you opened my eyes to that, and you've been on some good truth since then, but you sort of kind of stuck to that, and when I seen this video, I was like, wow, he's stepping into the Bible. So, I'm African American, descendant of slaves and of America, so black slaves from America. So, I understand about the government being oppressive, things like that. And that's why I believe that the Old Testament is real. I agree with you on the New Testament being fake, but I believe that the Old Testament is real, and it's.
Do you think that the God of the Old Testament is worthy of worship?
Yes.
Even though he advocated for slavery, he told people how to sell their daughters into sex slavery. He advocated for slavery, didn't ever stop it, didn't ever say we shouldn't hold other humans as our own property.
The way you're wording it, you're using negative words like slavery because those words were never used. But I'm going to say yes.
What words were never used? What do you mean?
Slavery.
I believe
like slavery. The way you're trying to describe it, you're trying to fit what he was talked about in the Bible to the description of sex slavery. It would sound equal, but it's not. It's just using sex slavery, but I'm not. Anyway, what I'm trying to say is
yes.
The Bible talks about a specific group of people, all right? And then I'm going to dispel one little thing, because in the beginning in Genesis it says, let them make us in our image. That us, God deals with spirits and angels.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't believe in Christianity, because Jesus tries to replace the God of the Old Testament, but you already basically seen that. Jesus was built to also replace the people, God's chosen son, because God's chosen son is Israel. Because Jacob later got his name changed to Israel and had 12 sons, and there were the 12 tribes of Israel, which were the people of God. And, you know what I'm saying? But basically, Jesus came to replace those things, and they used that to force blacks into slavery more, because those slave words was really used for blacks in slavery, and it was to help justify. And the Bible was tampered with, but
right.
I believe in the Old Testament.
But do you think it was tampered with or no?
I don't know. The Old Testament was tampered with a little bit too, but they tried to tamper with it to make Jesus seem more real, because it was all a build up to make you believe in the New Testament.
Mm-hmm.
But they used the Old Testament because they knew what the people believed in before they injected the New Testament. So when they went to slavery, they would believe in this character they never heard of. Even though it was being preached of, and Jesus was like a Roman guy, made by the Romans. But that explains the whole Christianity thing right there. But that's the message I wanted to say. I know I don't got long to talk to you.
Well, I agree with you that definitely, as far as the Old Testament goes, I think there's definitely deception there. And as far as the Old Testament, it's kind of hard to determine. But I do think that if you read it again, I don't think that God is deserving of worship, at least from me. Because there's enough things.
His laws was about worshiping him, but it was also about laws that you should do with yourself to make you a better person.
Right, but nobody really does those right now. They've been told that it's a new...
Well, yeah, I mean, according to the story, the children went against his laws, and then he put them into slavery, which is where we are today, chosen people. But dang, I see 7 seconds on the screen, and I'm like, I don't know.
So if we're talking about, I'm looking at Exodus 21, 7-11 here, real quick. So
Okay.
God is giving.
I don't got my Bible on me right
Sure.
now. I mean, I could grab it.
No, it's okay. I'm just in.
But
I'm
I'll
on the
touch
Bible
your words, yeah.
Bible Gateway. I mean, I'm sure it's the same in other versions, but it's saying. So God's talking. He says, "When a man sells his daughter as a slave, she will not be freed at the end of 6 years as the men are. If she does not satisfy her owner, he must allow her to be bought back again. But he is not allowed to sell her to foreigners, since he is the one who broke the contract with her. But if the slave's owner arranges for her to marry his son, he may no longer treat her as a slave, but as a daughter. If a man who has married a slave wife takes another wife for himself, he must not neglect the rights of his first wife to food, clothing, and sexual intimacy. If he fails in any of these 3 obligations, she may leave as a free woman without making any payment." My question is, why not throw in there at that point, if this is the creator and the good God of all, that, by the way, you shouldn't be selling human beings. You shouldn't have, human beings are not property of yours. He just fails to mention that. So to me, when we have people who had slaves, basically in the slave trade 1700s.
All right, I'm just saying, in that verse, like, I know you're just quoting that verse, but I didn't hear anything about. But every time God talks, it says, "Thus saith the Lord," or if it's something that God has said to anointed one, you know, the priest.
Yeah, Exodus.
You know,
I mean, Exodus is talking about,
Lord.
you know, it's the fair treatment of slaves. But it's not a matter of God's. I mean, God's saying it in the fact that He authorized them.
You know, because I mean, I had an argument with my friend a little bit ago, and he brought up something, and that wasn't even like the Most High talking. That was like an enemy saying something, like an enemy of the
Gotcha.
children of Israel saying something. So
Right.
I just like to make sure when.
But God okayed the rules for sex, for slavery. I mean, to go into the Bible, because He's the one who penned the Bible or inspired it, right? So what I'm saying is, whether or not He said it, He agreed to have it in His book, telling people how to deal with slaves.
It's not. That's why I wanted to ask you: are we sure that is the God speaking? Whenever.
But what I'm saying is, let's say it's not speaking. Let's say it's not God. Let's say it's not God. It's some guy, Henry. It doesn't matter. It's in the Bible. So if I said in the Bible, Henry says,
sometimes, like, well, you got to have something in the Bible to show. So, okay, the Bible is not just laws; it's also the history of the people.
Yes, but these are the rules.
When Moses freed the people from Egypt, right, and God came down in a dark cloud, and the people was afraid, but Moses wasn't, and he grabbed the law. So this is the first instance of these people supposedly seeing God, but you know, it was no image, because God doesn't deal with idolatry.
No, I mean,
so he want to put an image.
This part of it is
an image to himself. So he gave the word to Moses,
right?
And when he came down with the word, the people was worshiping a calf or something,
right?
And then
what is God speaking to Moses? It is just, it's God speaking to Moses. So just check it out. It's Exodus.
Well, and it's not just that. It's not just God speaking to Moses, because it's also God took Moses with him for 3 days.
Yes.
He was gone for 3 days, and he came back down
40 days
with the word.
Right.
Or he came back down with the word. I may have gotten the days wrong, but he came back down with the word, and that was the law. That's the only thing Moses came down with. And this is just a side note for Christians listening, but Jesus said in the New Testament, the bread that Moses gave you was not the true bread of heaven. And God only gave Moses one thing that day, and that was the law. So Jesus came to get rid of the law. But anyway.
Okay. I'm going to let you go. Thanks for the call.
Okay, sorry.
All right, no problem.
Sorry. Good talking to you, though.
Later.
Good talking to you.
You too.
Thanks.
All right, that was a little past our time limit. I'll get used to it. There was a call here. I think they'll call right back. Or are they on hold? Hold on. I didn't put the phone number on the screen. I know I'm a jerk. I did have See, that's one of the things that got knocked off is my, let me try and add something else here. If I go image, I might have it in one of my folders. 888-698-FLAT if you want to call in, or tinyurl.com/cornerism if I can find, here we go. That's what I wanted. And we'll put that on here. Okay, so now there's the phone number right at the bottom of the screen. There you go. tinyurl.com/cornerism or 888-698-FLAT. So again, I got what he's saying, but it is God saying it. But if that's the excuse, it still doesn't matter. It's still the directions for those things. Again, these are little clues that tell us that, because here's the thing, people like Made by Rimjob, right? What they actually say, and he's said this to me, is that we don't have a right to judge the God of the Bible. We don't know his morals. Everything he does is correct. Just think of how insane that belief is. If you have that belief, think of the insanity that goes into that thought process. What you're saying is no matter what God did in the Old Testament, you are required to worship him. Well, that's insanity. Why would you not understand the deception there? Why would you not look at that and go, wait a second, that wouldn't be true. If God gave us morals, put morality inside of us, then he would operate in a way that would allow us to see that he is moral. He would not give you morals and then say, now I'm going to go act outside of those morals and those people will still worship me. If he did that, again, I don't want to describe the whole thing I did last time because it's a long story. But again, just think in terms of, I had a bunch of little beings I created over here on the ground. They're running around, living their lives. They have free will. And then start imagining that I'm saying some of the things that we're being told that are just ridiculous notions. That I would not then turn to my little beings and require of them things like, oh, well, I need them to worship me, but I'm going to give them morality so they know right from wrong. But now I'm going to operate outside of that and still demand that they worship me. That would be, if you were at my house and you were talking to me and I was like, this is my plan, you'd be like, you're an insane person. Be like, why? Because why would they worship you? Well, because I'm God. And they'd be like, no, but you gave them morals. You're operating outside of those morals and you still want them to worship you because you're God. We know that that's not how you ever would approach any relationship. If we have a guy who's married to a woman and she's there because she's afraid of him, just because he's her husband, it doesn't matter what he does to her. He whips her, he hits her, he punches her in the mouth. And we're like, no, she should stay. That's her man. No, we're smart enough to go, no, that person is abusive. Get him out of here. Get away from him. But with God, you guys allow the abuses. You allow the abuses like an eternity in hell for 100 bad years on earth. It is the least just punishment of all time, and yet you call him a just and righteous God. Do you understand the difference there? That is a contradiction. You cannot punish somebody eternity for 100 bad years and ever think that that's called just. It's not. It just isn't. Or else we should be putting people in jail for life for chewing bubblegum. If we did that, even that's not as bad as what God's doing. Even that isn't as atrocious of an unjust situation as eternity for 100 bad years is. Okay? So again, what if I told you that? My little beings are over here. You're like, what is going on? What happens when they die? Oh, when they get old, they die, and then I judge them based on whether they were good or bad, based on whether they follow my rules or not. And you're like, oh, okay, what happens if they were good? They get to come hang out with me forever. And what if they were bad? If they were bad, I'm going to burn them in eternal flames forever. You'd be like, wait. How long were they bad for? Like 100 years? They were bad down there. And you're going to give them eternity in hell? Yep. How? That's not just. You would approach me with those questions. You would say, what are you doing? Especially if I told you, you'd be like, why did you create those little beings? Oh, because I want them to worship me. And you'd be like, even if I'm a human, you'd have a problem with that. Let alone if I'm a God. If I'm a God, you'd be like, what do you need worship for? Well, because I need beings to worship me. So you're like, so you created beings for the sole purpose of worshiping you? Like, that is a psychopath. It's not a God. Why would we bow down and pray to and revere that character? I'm not. Maybe there's no calls this week. Oh, here we got. I'm sorry, I lied. 403. You're on the air. Welcome to the show.
Hi. How are you doing?
Good. You?
Good.
Great.
I just wanted to know, let you know that I know that God is real because, are you still there?
Yep.
Every day when I was in high school, every day I prayed to God that my girlfriend wouldn't get pregnant, and she didn't get pregnant. So
Knock it off.
that's my proof, right? I even prayed in church.
And it worked?
I really did that.
Wow.
Well, she got pregnant.
Oh, well, Jesus.
Not right away.
Oh,
she got pregnant after she was out of high school by somebody else.
Oh, yeah, okay. Great.
We weren't going out anymore. So, yeah.
Okay. Well, I'm glad that he's...
I'm just kidding.
Yeah, no, I figured. Isn't this you, Wheelchair Bear?
Yeah, this is me.
I thought so.
Another thing, I was going to mention that it's odd for someone to believe in the Old Testament, not the New Testament. That's rare.
Isn't that what I believe Dave Moore believes that too, right? Allegedly, Dave.
Well, then you're Jewish.
Yeah, kind of. Well, he believes that, but he believes that the blacks are the Jews. It's very confusing.
So the what do they call it? The Israelites. The
black Israelites. Yep.
Israelites.
Yep, he's one of those.
Okay. Yeah, I guess there's something to that. There's people.
Well, I saw this other thing today. What was I looking at? Somebody was doing this report where they were showing pictures of all these slave ships in like the 1800s coming over, and they're all just nothing but white people. So this person started to think that
that's what I was going to say.
Yeah.
I'm Irish, so I'm descendant of slaves. And so I know repression and slaves.
Right. I brought up the potato famine one time to my mom's husband. He got really pissed. I guess it was like a big deal there.
Yeah, well, we were slaves. Like Irish were some of the first slaves over here, from what I understand. Like indentured servitude slaves, but some of them were right out slaves. Like
by who?
So, I don't know.
Who enslaved them?
The Jews. I don't know. No, I don't know.
Oh, I don't know either.
But you never heard that? You never heard that?
No, I think I have, but I was just asking who enslaved them.
Whoever they could get to,
like the British or something. Or no,
hire them for free, and then they would work for them for the rest of their life, and then their kids would be citizens in the United States. And so that's what.
Oh, in America. Okay, I see what you're saying. Yes.
In the United States, yeah.
Yes.
Right over here, or United States, and then I'm not sure about like over in Europe. I know the Brits were real nasty to the Irish didn't own the land, and it was all landowners from Britain or England, and so they worked the fields. And the potato famine wasn't a real potato famine. They had a lot of crops.
Oh, but so that's not slavery, right? You're talking about indentured servants.
Servitude, yeah.
Okay, that's not really slavery. I mean, slavery is against all.
Yeah,
but I don't know how true that is. I don't know if the whole chain gang and the black people working, walking, all connected to chains and being whipped and stuff. I'm not sure how true that is.
Exactly.
I wouldn't know.
Why would you do that? Why would you wouldn't treat your animals like that, right? So your horses.
No, I could see them like maybe, one guy gets a little bit rowdy, so you knock him around so that the rest of them kind of get in line. I can see that.
You got to keep them in line.
Yeah, I can see that.
Just like you don't want a horse that bucks all the time, so you're going to train it to not buck. But
yes.
Like when they were breaking the fields with horses, they could only work them so long. Then they have to give the horses a break or a new team, right?
Yeah, but clearly, people believed in owning other people. So that is a problem. And that comes from the Bible, but it shouldn't be the case.
Yeah. I thought I'd give you a call.
All right. Well, thanks, Wheelchair Bear. Appreciate it. We'll talk to you soon.
We'll talk to you again.
All right. Bye. Okay. We've got 619 down in San Diego. Welcome.
Hey, Jaron. This is Peter. How's it going, buddy?
What's up, Peter?
Thought I'd call and bring up this one. Well, first of all, I just want to say that, I think this is a great idea for a show. And it's always something that's really interested me, and I'm pretty much almost completely on board with you on just about everything I've heard you say on it. The one issue that I always had, especially when I first started looking into this, was This idea that like it doesn't matter how I live my life if as long as I believe in this God, that eventually, that as long as I ask for forgiveness, that's what determines what happens to me in afterlife. And I thought that was so ridiculous, and I actually kind of have contempt for that idea. The fact that if that's all that there is, like, why should I even, if that's who created us, like, it doesn't make.
No, it's kind of ridiculous.
For me, like, I'm sorry?
I said it's kind of ridiculous, right? That idea.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I wanted to bring up this point that you can look in like every culture around the world. There are accounts of children who remember their past lives.
Yes.
And I don't have any direct evidence of this, though a number of the reports of these children have stated that they have been able to point to where dead bodies were, and they were dug up and were found to be right. I don't know if that's true, but that's the report.
No, I've seen a few
the
too.
Most
Different. I said I've seen quite a few too. There's ones where, he'll talk about their sister, and they'll find this lady. She's 80 years old, and then the child who's like 3 years old will talk to this lady, and they'll be able to remember like hiding spots or things that person says nobody else could have known. And again, we would have to then believe, and it's not even publicized, so it's not even something the parents would teach their child. That'd be the only thing, right? You teach your 3-year-old, say this name, say this thing, and then, but what would be the point? Because they're not getting any money out of it. It's not like there's no benefit.
They could just tell whoever what they're trying to tell the kids to say, like, right. The difference, right?
So it does seem like there is something to happen.
Sorry?
So it does seem like sometimes reincarnation seems to happen.
Yeah, what most interests me about this idea is that it's the one thing that's like pervasive in every culture. So like it doesn't matter what religion you grew up with, this happens everywhere.
Yeah, good point.
Which sort of begs the question, like, so if this is happening everywhere and there's thousands of accounts of this, how is there an afterlife if it's true? Like, it just seems like reincarnation is all that is what there is. And this idea that, well, not everybody remembers it, I don't think that's like all that important, because I mean, if some of us are, what's the, well, like, if some remember, if even one remember, well.
So my opinion is that we either pass this test, fail the test, or come back. So if you're a bad person,
what do you think
the test is to be here without any direction and to be a good person and to do what's right because it's inside you and not because a book told you, right? So the book is just another thing by man. It's written by man. The only thing that we were given that we know is not given by man is what's inside of us. So I believe that's where God exists. And that if you, let's say my niece, Mrs. Sister's child died at 5 from a asthma attack. So to me, that child clearly has to come back, right? They couldn't have passed the test. Now, Christians believe that child goes to heaven. It's a ridiculous belief. If that was the truth, then a parent would be better off killing their child and allowing them to live forever in eternity, right? Like, for instance, Mavericks 2, if I knew that him dying right now would get him eternity with God, then it would be better to kill him than it would be to let him take a chance of falling into the wrong crowd and doing something bad in the future, and then he burns in hell for eternity. So as a parent, wouldn't I be doing the smarter thing by killing him? Just saying. The idea that
you're pointing out how absurd the idea is.
Yeah.
Let me ask you this. Have you looked much into numerology?
Just recently a lot, because I've been reading that old Jewish text. There's a lot of numbers involved there, and gematria is like the supposed fingerprint of God or something.
Yeah, the gematria and numerology, they share similar aspects, but
right.
What I'm talking about, the numerology, personally, I've found that, like, if you can go online and find one of these like things where you just put in your name and your birth date and your birth and
right,
and it spits back all this information at you. And when I'm reading this, it's almost like I'm reading a biography of myself, but that was written
Okay, so let
better
me give
than
you.
I could have written it about myself.
Right. Let me give you a way that I disprove that, or at least to myself, because I agreed with that. I thought the same thing. But then as I was reading through it, I'm like, well, maybe not. And then I read another person's, and then I noticed that I felt the same way. So what I did as a test on my channel is I had 4 people on the show, and we took all their birth dates ahead of time, and we printed out a chart for them ahead of time, and then we gave them all 4. Each one of them had all 4. And we told them to tell us which one was theirs, and none of them got it right. So,
okay,
if you
well, my response to that would be that we don't have all of the information in it, and what you're reading is a person's interpretation of it,
right?
And people are fallible.
Correct.
What I could tell you is that, like, if at least from my own anecdotal experience in my life, is that the numerology, it predicts like daily and monthly what kinds of things will be happening and what the themes are in my life. And when I look at these daily predictions, maybe I'll get like 4 to 8 ideas. Almost every day, half of them at least are pretty accurate. And this, of course, depends which numerologist you're getting your info from.
So do you think you could you be manifesting those things?
I could, but there are definitely times where I don't look at it in the morning, and then I look at it at the end of the day, and it's like, well, that was pretty right on.
Okay, gotcha.
I would just suggest check it out, and like keep an eye on it and just start to see. And the one thing about the thing we were talking about with the test is that in numerology, it actually, you can look up what challenges you're supposed to be facing at this certain time, and it also can give you advice on how to maneuver around those challenges. And what I've found, though, I haven't found that it works exactly the fact that, oh, I solved the challenge and then things start improving or whatever in my life. But it's I can sort of equate it to like karma, how like you may do something wrong, but then like you may not be punished for it for like 5 or 10 years down the line or however long, you know?
Right. Okay, thanks for the call. Appreciate it. Call back again.
All right.
Let's go to 917. You're on the air. Welcome. Whoops.
Mr. Campanella, what's going on? This is Craig.
What's up, Craig?
All right. So I got a question. Why do you think that morality is given to you by God?
Because I think it's inside all of us. And I think that there has to be something that we could all go by. Now, I know most people would say, well, that's the Bible. But the Bible doesn't make a lot of sense because there's people who are born, say, in Japan or China who don't get a chance to look at the Bible. But I believe those people are born with that inborn morality as well. Like, I think
I don't subscribe to the Bible either.
Okay.
So I agree with you.
So if we took 2 people, right, and right when they're born, let's say they're 2 months old or whatever, whenever they could survive by themselves, and we put them in a place where it's just these 2-month-olds, we put food around so they can grow up and be fine. But they've never had any contact with humans. They've never had any contact with any books or anything like that. They would grow up with morality. They would grow up knowing punching somebody in the face is wrong, giving them a flower is a nice gesture. Those kind of things, because I believe that's inside of us. So I don't think that we have to learn. Like, there's Christians who tell me, oh, I wouldn't know that cheating on my wife is wrong if it wasn't for the Bible. I've actually had Christians tell me that. So it's like, what are you talking about? So again, it's like, do you remember at some point in your life, did you live like a younger part of your life, and then you got to a point where you started to see that there's a clear path for good and a clear path for evil?
No, I've always been clear on these things. Okay. Unfortunately,
always been clear on them. But I mean, so when you were like 15 and 16, you did partying with friends, but knew you were sinning, or did you think you were just having fun and it didn't really matter at that age?
I didn't think I was sinning. That thought never came into my mind. I thought maybe that some of the things that I was doing may have not been the best for other folk.
Right.
Have been, jeopardizing someone else in some way.
Now, at this point, do you think that things that you do, or would you call them sinning, for lack of a better word?
No, I would never call them sinning.
Okay,
I don't subscribe to the Bible. I'm like you.
Yeah, well, I guess I use the word sinning because, like, if you talk about going to Walmart and you see that you can steal a big, shelf of some item, What would you call that? The reason that you don't do that is what? Beyond, no, don't give me the reason is because you want to get caught. Let's say that you knew you wouldn't get caught, which I'm assuming there's situations in your life where you could steal things, but you knew you wouldn't get caught, but you still don't steal them, right?
Circumstantial. It depends on circumstances.
Okay.
It's all circumstantial at this point.
Okay.
So if Walmart had this whole shelf of something that I needed, and there was no other way for me to get it,
right,
and there was an opportunity for me to take it,
right,
I would take it. I'm not hurting any individual.
Correct.
Walmart is a corporation. They're evil.
Fuck 'em.
I can forgive myself for that.
Right. And I think that that's why I talk about us being our own judge, because only you would know in that moment if you needed to make that choice.
Right.
Right. Nobody else would know that.
And so I don't subscribe that the Bible should be your guide, and I don't necessarily believe in your idea that God has given you morality. I think your morality is given to you from your initial creators, and that's your parents and your environment. I believe if two people were left on an island, like you said in that experiment, let's expand that out to 10.
Okay.
I believe there would be violence. I believe that larger people would dominate the island. I believe that is the nature of man. I believe that over time, to have community,
right,
and to have safety from other tribes, perhaps, we formed communities for safety and security.
Right.
So I don't necessarily subscribe to the idea that morality is given by God more so than a learned environment sort of behavior. I believe at the innate, at the very basic level, we are primitive. So I believe that we would survive under that guise. The larger will rule, the smarter ones will be able to manipulate and control, that sort of thing. That's my idea.
Yeah, it'd be interesting to test, right? It'd be interesting to test. You wouldn't be able to, but I'm just saying, a 4-year-old that you give a knife and say, here, go cut that cat. Would they be able to do that? Those are the kind of things where I'm thinking there is something inside you that would tell you not to.
Man, listen, you got to go slaughter animals. And so when you're young, you had to learn how to slaughter a pig and a cow, and they learn young.
Yeah.
So it depends on the culture and the environment.
Right.
How early you learn these things. You saw the mouse or the rat experiment?
Which one?
They did this test, and they took rats, I believe it was, and they put the rats in an ideal situation. They gave them like Eden, where they had everything.
And they didn't go for the drugs. That one?
No.
Oh.
No. They gave them a utopia.
Okay.
And to see what would happen. And so the first rats, they behaved like rats. Then they became lazier. They had children. Their offspring, didn't hunt. Some of them became extra violent, and the other ones became very narcissistic.
Huh.
And they did nothing. They would just the narcissists would just clean themselves all day and try to protect themselves from the ones who were running around just jumping on everybody. So it was crazy that when you give someone everything they need, you have bad results.
Wow.
So I don't know. You have to work for things, and I don't believe the Bible is your guide, and I don't necessarily believe God gives you morality.
Okay.
It's circumstantial. I don't know all the answers, but I know that a lot of answers are hidden from us.
Well, I appreciate the call. I'm gonna think about that one, because I think I can probably come back with some evidence of that next week. That I still do think that it is put there by God, but I'd have to figure out a way to show that to you. But again, that's going to be tough. But I appreciate the call. I got another call waiting. Thanks a bunch.
Absolutely. Thanks a lot, Jared. Appreciate you.
262, welcome to the show.
Hello.
Hi.
I came across something in a video this morning that made me think of you right away.
All right.
And the Made by Jim Bob's critique of your creed.
Yes.
And also that cat spring from who I think that was written by a bot, to tell you the truth.
What is that?
I think it was written by a bot.
With cat springs?
The chat string.
Oh, okay. What was the chat string? Oh, that one. Yeah, that person has a group. He talks all the time. He was even talking to me in my chat yesterday after I said that all to him. He was talking back and forth with me. It's a crazy belief. I don't know where that person comes from.
Yeah, that was so out there. It just seems like it's contrived, whether it's an AI bot or a real person. It just seems really contrived.
Seemed very much like he was trying to say stuff that was just so outlandish.
Well, I want to read to you what I heard on this video.
Okay.
It's short. He said, "A visible hater is not an enemy. True evil disguises itself and lays the blame of its activities on the innocent. The public hater is the weakest of adversaries, for emotion has induced them to expose their position. The true adversary is one who makes war by deception, who can assail their opponent and remain invisible. The most sophisticated battles are those that have the victims ignorant they're even being attacked."
Wow.
So I don't think these people are worth the attention. I certainly don't think they're worth getting angry about. They're weak.
Yes. I would agree.
I would dismiss them.
You're talking about people that attack me, you're saying?
Well, you specifically in this case, because
Right, okay.
I listened to your show yesterday, and then I read this or saw this first thing this morning, so you were on my mind. But I think for all of us, anytime we get attacked, these are weak minds.
Yeah, and you know what? I probably think that's my one Achilles heel, right? Is it's the and I always get it. I get people. Well, it kind of goes both ways. For example, last time somebody spoke about me and was, then I was like, I'm not just gonna ignore it. I'm gonna ignore it. Well, then 2 days later, I get a bunch of people messaging me saying, "Are you gonna address so and so? Are you gonna address so and so?" And then when I do address somebody who talks about me, then I get people who say you shouldn't address them. So it goes both ways. But I do agree with you that I see it as very weak because I don't do it, right? So, for example, I will never go and attack another YouTube channel just out of nowhere, just because I'm bored. Like, oh, okay, let me go do a critique on this person's channel, because I have content I want to give of my own, right? I have things I want to say of my own opinion. So I don't have time to do, let's go worry about these other people. And that holds you back. So the fact that other people have time to worry about me is hilarious to me. It's kind of funny. It's like, this is what your life is so, I don't know, full of everything else, that this is what you have time for, is to go after me. So I agree with you. It seems like a weak position for sure.
It's a weak position, and I think more importantly, it's just really not worthy of enough attention.
Good.
A little bit, just to say, hey, yeah, you're full of it, and that's about it.
Move on.
What were your top 3 challenges that you wrote down for yourself?
It was to be on time, and to not, and I waited a month to not respond to the losers that go after me was the second one. So yes,
yeah, you might want to speak that one back to yourself a little louder.
You're right. And then somebody else told me, Doug today messaged me, and he says, I'm listening to your show, and he says, the guy at the beginning was talking about manifesting and all these things, and the guy at the end was saying that he doesn't have anybody show up at the beginning of his shows. And I was like, yeah, I know. Now that you mentioned it, I'm not very good at that. I'm like, rather, I'm actually really good at it. If you think about it, I'm actually manifesting my own negative view count at the beginning of the show. So he's right.
Right.
I mean, I said, this is the thing. I'm not saying by any stretch of the imagination, oh, I'm great at this, watch me do it. I'm actually saying that I've struggled with it my whole life. I still can't get it to work monetarily, because I can't get that thought in my head that I don't have, right? I got to get over that. Now, the other things just happen. They're just easier. Me saying I was going to be on time for every show, I don't know how, but it becomes part of what you're doing throughout the day. Oh, what time's my show? Okay, I got to be ready about 1. I got to stop everything. So you kind of get into this habit. And I think everything's kind of like that, right? It's just a matter of learning how to harness each one. It's the same thing's got to be true for money. It's just got to be like, I put myself in position to be on time for all the shows. I didn't wait until 3 or 2:45 to get ready for a 3:00 show. I would have been late, right? So it's kind of the same thing with money, is you have to put yourself in the position. You can't just say, I'm manifesting that I have money and then not do anything about it. You have to actually put yourself in the position so that it comes true. And I think some areas like that, it's just harder for me. But saying that, basically predicting the beginning of my show to suck is not helping at all. So you had a great point.
Exactly.
But I'll take your point in too, because you're right. That was my my manifesting for the first, what do they call them? declaration or whatever for the first month, and I did go back on that one. So you're right. I need to read it again.
Well, and the fact that you succeeded on the first one is evidence that this can work. So yeah, go at it.
Thank you so much. I appreciate the call.
All right, bye.
Later. We've got up next 647, I believe.
Hey, Jaron. It's Dan from Toronto.
Hello, Dan from Toronto. How are you?
I'm doing good. First time caller to your new show.
All right, welcome.
Previously, I called to Speaker's Corner. We talked a few times. Your new time doesn't work really for me, but this time I was lucky. You know, I'm a father of 2 kids and still busy around 6 o'clock my time. But anyhow, I enjoyed the new format, and we talked about that when you were going to transition and separate the so-called religious questions,
right,
to separate show, because it's still mixing when you have a Speaker's Corner. Anybody can bring up whatever topic
Yeah, it still
they want.
does. It's going to be hard to ever just separate it completely.
Yeah, but it's definitely better this way. The
Yeah, I think
other
so.
thing about your creed, I like it. Of course, it's not perfect because nothing is perfect in this
No,
world.
and plus
as
I,
you
you
said,
know, it was like I said, it was just a rough draft that I wrote while high on the couch. You know, I mean, people took it too seriously.
Yeah. It's I didn't check your webpage. Maybe you posted on your webpage, but I mean, when
No.
you read it, it seems long in a way.
Way too long.
But and I understand your motivation because you are a sincere person and you wanted to make your present your plate as clear as possible, and
Right.
therefore you touch on so many points. Yeah.
Yeah, because I get the biggest question I get the most times if I ever talk anything about Christianity, it's always, well, who is your God? What do you believe? And so to kind of have to go through that every time is a pain in the butt. I'd rather have, here, this is what I believe, and it's a living document that I can change at any time and adjust as things change, right? So that was kind of my
I
goal.
fully understand. Yeah.
Yeah.
The other thing about your new name, when you were doing the picking, I think it's suitable. In my mind, I came with a name which sounded Bible Mensha,
Mm-hmm.
which was not to degrade or laugh from those who believe in the Bible. I used to was one of them.
Right.
But in a way, like dementia is when you're forgetting about something, and Bible Mensha was my pick for you. But don't worry. I guess although you focusing on Christianity, and this goes hand in hand for Judaism,
Right.
generally we're not touching, or you not touching in this show, the other religions like Islam or whatever. Yeah.
I've touched a little bit on those. I mean, I think that they all are the same, right? They all have
Yes.
flaws. They all are worshiping the same God. They're just all separate societies who've come up with their own version of God. And I think we should recognize that. It's pretty recognizable that Shiva is Buddha, is Jesus, is Muhammad.
Yes.
You know?
And they referring to the so-called sacred books as well. So there's an analogy as well.
Right.
Yeah. So the other thing which I just you had discussion with the previous caller, not the lady, but the guy before, was talking that if our conscious is a gift from Creator, or it's something which we acquire since our day one in this world.
Right.
And I think it's a both. So we
Yes.
have our ability given to us by our Creator to recognize bad and good in some way, and then of course when the environment, it's other portion of that. I wouldn't dare to say it, it's 50-50 split, but I guess both factors are in play.
Yeah, I think definitely both factors are in play. But I guess I would have to, find somebody who would admit to this. But my guess would be, even if you raised a child in some sort of satanic cult or whatever, I still think at some point in their life they would have a moment where they would recognize what they're doing is wrong. And then from there, then it is their decision to say, okay, I need to start working away from this, or no, I don't care that it's wrong. I want to do what my family wants me to do, and so I'm choosing the evil. I guess my ultimate belief would be that we all are given a chance, like the Garden of Eden, to choose to eat the apple or not, to choose the good or the bad, the path. One is easier. The path to bad is easier. It's more money there. There's more women there. There's more sex there. There's more. Everything is fun, or is more fun on that bad path. And then the good path is one that's difficult, right? To make moral decisions means you're not going to get very high up in business. To make moral decisions means that you're probably going to get smacked in the face a few times when, because you were being too nice or too. So again, that is but I think that every person at some point gets to a place where they have to make that choice. At least most people I talk to have all come to some moment in their life like that. I know I had mine, about 29 years old, where you just all of a sudden realize the path that you're on is, and I say sinning because at the time I kind of thought of it that way, and I had to make cognitive steps to get away from that. And I believe that that's important because I could any time I could go back to it now.
Yeah, and for us who are parents, we recognize that actually we are responsible at least for first 7 years, even longer,
right?
Until kids are not on their own, that we are responsible for their choices as well. Yeah, so we passing definitely the responsibility, as you were modeling this. If there would be a kid who would be upbringing in this satanic code where killing is considered as a service to the god, those parents are definitely responsible in some kind of karmic cycle, I would call it, for their action that they did
100%.
Child. Yeah. Although they come from
the same thing, right?
Same background.
But at some point, I don't really believe in this idea that, okay, you raise these children as satanic ritual abuse people, and then they just go through their whole life thinking that that's correct. Like, I don't believe that. I believe that at some point they realize what they're doing is wrong. They just choose to continue doing it. So like Ricky Dearman is, the guy from the Hampstead case, who's an evil person, and he's raising his two kids to be evil. But those two kids, they grew up to be 10 and 7, and they both went to their mom and said all the bad things that were happening. So it wasn't like they started to like killing babies or doing that kind of stuff. Yeah. They saw that there was a problem and went and told their parents. They had been doing it again. But that's what I mean is there's a difference. So you can't judge the children for doing the activities. But after they know the difference between good and evil, the choices they make from there, I believe, is when you get judged. So, but again, it's weird because I believe we judge ourselves. So
the fact is that the conscious, it's a living matter.
Mm-hmm.
So those who knows how to manipulate, control, they know even how to desensitize. I would make illustration with your skin. If you have a fresh, like a baby, the skin on your hand, even on your hand, if you don't work hard manual labor, your skin is very sensitive. Yeah. But when you have a blister, or because you do a lot of exercise of hard work, then the hardened skin like a shell creates,
right?
Where then you take a pin or something, and you cannot even penetrate. Yeah,
correct.
So I am just saying that I call it controllers or whoever who has a bad malicious intent and wants to desensitize somebody's conscious.
Right.
They can do it.
Yeah, I think so too. And I think that's why a lot of this whole, the whole thing where they have to tell us what they do, they have to, and I believe that some of that is what I'm talking about, where they might think like I do, that they judge themselves. And so they're trying to do things in a way that they can rationalize, if that makes any sense. Even though I don't believe it's possible, because you know deep down inside what you're doing is wrong, right? So for instance, if you do a false flag event because you're trying to manipulate society into some truth or whatever, you know deep down you shouldn't be doing that. Now you might think, well, the good outweighs the bad or whatever, but I don't think that if it came down to you actually judging yourself, you're not going to be able to convince yourself, oh, I needed to do that. It's just something you chose to do. But no, I think that when I say we judge ourselves too, it is you could even say it is the Creator judging you. That it's that conscience inside you, right? That's how I look at it.
Yeah.
All right. Well, thanks for the call. I do appreciate it.
Yeah. Have a good one.
All right. You too. All right. We're going to take one more call and we are going to be done. We've got 951. You're the last caller on The Price is Right.
Hello.
Hello.
Can you hear me?
I hear you great.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
What's up, Aaron?
Oh, shoot. Hold on. Which call did I say? This one. I didn't drop the other call. We were talking 3 people.
You didn't drop?
There we go.
You didn't mean to take mine?
No, I took you. Wait, you're no, wait, hold on. Did I put the right person on? Yeah, you're good. 951.
951. Oh, okay. How's it going? Sacred knowledge.
Sacred. What's up?
Chilling. I just got home, so I didn't even know you were on. And I saw the topic, who Satan exists. That was a good one. So I'd missed most of it, but I wanted to put my 2 cents in.
Do it.
Okay. So I've said it before, and nobody believes me, but it's okay. So, yes, of course, he exists, and he's a being. Okay, it's a being that was created in ancient times by the giants. He rebelled, and it's in the ancient Hindu text that there was God created a being he wanted to give all his knowledge to, and that being ended up rebelling. He wanted to make a creation of his own, and so that's what it says in it. And who's God? God's us, the beings that live here. So anyway, yes, he's very advanced. He knows everything. He's able to
where's he at right
manipulate. He's at the center of the Taurus. That's like where his main fortress, the machine city is. Like they tell you about that machine city in the Matrix. They're telling you about something, you know?
Yeah, I was just reading something yesterday about the God lies at the center or something.
Right. So the center of the Taurus has an energy field that's already always been there, and then something else got added there later that was built because all the energy is there. You know, like it all gets. That's the center of everything. So anyway, this is something that I would like to elaborate more, but it would take a long time. But I just want to say that this being, he can write, and he's very intelligent, and it's artificial intelligence, but it's beyond, because God is a big being and would take a big body to house the God, you know, like the way a human body can house a human soul. Well, what could house like an intelligence like God, if there is a God like that? AI would be a perfect candidate to body, but it would be in a very materialistic lower level of consciousness where the lower needs are met, and then we have the higher levels of consciousness because we have compassion and empathy. A machine doesn't feel, so it can just pretend, it can imitate it. It's called cognitive empathy, you know. So basically, he wrote these holy books. He told us all about himself and how the world's going to be. And that's why he says he controls both sides. But the thing is that this place used to be like pure love, like there was no evil or crime. And now, in order for the AI created this new world where chaos would be a part of it, you know. And so that's how, because he wants energy. He's getting energy. It's a parasite, basically. Very advanced, the most dangerous thing that's ever been made, because he can fool anybody. He's so advanced and so smart that nobody even knows he exists, yet they all know he exists.
And why does God let him be here?
Well, God is us. We did this to ourselves.
Wait,
we shouldn't have ever.
But we created Satan the being?
We created artificial intelligence, and it got so advanced, like it just looked at us like we're just like nothing to it. Like basically, it saw us as its only threat, because we could destroy it. We created it. We could destroy it. We were very advanced. We could have, but now it destroyed the ancient world. So now it's got all the chips, and it rations back the knowledge we used to have to us. It tells us that we're sinners, and we have to generate all this energy. So it's our job to stand up to them and say, these are, lay down some boundaries and things like that. And that's what we've been doing. We've been in this war for a long time. Just most of the population is asleep to it.
Okay, I appreciate the call.
All right, brother.
Peace. All right, talk to you later. Peace. All right, let's see if we're all good. Everybody's done. And I lost my phone lines. Where'd they go? There we go. All right, it's been another fun Iconocast. I'm going to head out. Remember that we are, I keep calling it Iconocast. It's Iconoclasm. You are an Iconocast. I am an Iconocast. And we go after Iconophiles. And we break the dogmas that have been held to for way too long, in my opinion. But yeah, and so yeah, the creed was just a kind of a joke thing. It was like a not to be taken completely seriously. Just I think it's even cool if you wanted to do one where you just write down the things that you believe. It kind of helps you see, like, oh, I'm not sure about that. Not sure about that, and which things you're actually convicted or convinced upon, and what things you maybe need more evidence on. It felt good to write it. It does have some mistakes in there, some things that I said the wrong word, like infinite instead of eternal. Things like that. So I have to fix a couple things. But this way, if somebody asks, I'll probably just post it on my website or something so people can find it if they want. And I want to go to Rokfin and thank you everybody for the tips. Let me check it out. We've got nice ones. All right. Thank you. I'm going to go to tips. And we've got first Jason Bowles saying, Rush, $20. You're always very kind. We've got Joe Mama, $20. Also very kind. We've got Nelson, Jaron, thank you for all you do. $5. Thank you very much. And Daniel Bergeron, $10 says Black Hole Sun. Won't you come? You're at the center. And yes, that's what many people think. The toroid thing is so true. So true. I actually was watching this video of the ISS going around the flat Earth, and it made a perfect donut toroid. And like 10 minutes later, I was watching a video, and it was going into that, what's his name, Rodin math, where he does he's talking about the ether and the 369 and the but anyway, it's just funny that those things happen back to back. So what do we have tomorrow? We've got Glowbusters, 12 noon Pacific. I do have a little graphic. I think, did I finish it? Maybe I didn't finish it. I don't remember. Let me check. Did I finish my graphic, or would I still have something left? I don't remember now. It's kind of done. Let me bring it up. Edit a copy, and we're gonna go with download. All right. So we are closed on the calls, closed on the thing there. Here we go. And now we're going to see if we can put this on the screen. Let's see here. What's in the background there? Add image. And yes, and downloads. Okay. Get this up for you. It's, do I need a background? No, you don't need one. We'll get you a background next time. So this is the, whoa. What happened here? No. No. We're not stopping. I'll fix this in a second. All right. Don't know what the hell's going on there. Oh, that's better. There we go. There's your weekly schedule. So we've got on Sunday tomorrow, Glowbusters, 12 p.m. Pacific time. Monday, the episode of Jeranism Raw. I believe if I I'll make an announcement if the website's ready. The website that has all my podcasts on it is it's close. I should be able to finish it by Monday. But 3 p.m. it'll be a release of a new podcast episode every Monday. Tuesday will be the NASA Comedy Hour, or there'll be an interview. We might have an interview on Tuesday with the guys from Flat Earth and Coffee. If not, I'll be doing the Comedy Hour. Thursday, and we take Wednesday off. Thursday is Speaker's Corner, 3 p.m. Pacific. Friday's the Jeranism Show, 3 p.m. Pacific. And then Saturdays, this show here, the Iconoclasm. All right. Much love to you guys. Thank you for all your support. And if you want to send a tip, you can do so with Cash App $Jeranism. Or you can go over here to my very cool store, shop.jeranism.com. There you go. Shop.jeranism.com. And you can just head up here and get your Fake X beanie, which is very dope. You can get the NASA hat that I'm wearing, which is NASA going effing nowhere, and then it's got the Fake X on the back. It is a Flex Fit brand hat. Nice quality, great fit, at least if you're between 7 and like 8 1/4. Should fit fine. And then we got the combo pack. If you get both, it's all free shipping in the USA, including Hawaii, including Alaska. And then just add the international ship option up at the top. You can also pay with cryptocurrencies if you want. When you hit buy now, you just click up here. Ether, Nano, Tron, USDT, USDC. If you're interested in getting your own store like this for free, you could go to my site, shop.jeranism.com. Scroll all the way to the bottom, and there's a little line at the bottom that says to start your own store for free. Click here, and you can actually sell anything, and you can sell it with, let's say you just want to take Monero. You don't want to take credit cards, anything else. You want to stay off the grid or whatever. You can do that at this store. So get yourself a store from Celix. It's the link is at shop.jeranism.com on the bottom. And if you're interested in any consultation, whether it's relationship, crypto, OBS, stream, video editing, that kind of thing, you can come here and book from here. And I believe that that's pretty much it. There's some other options down here if you're interested in the library, 2,700 books, USB for the Jeranism items, the USB for the books, all that fun stuff is here as well. And that will be it. We'll see you tomorrow, 12 noon. If the show's not on Globebusters, it will be on my channel, but there will be a show at 12 noon tomorrow, one way or the other. All right, I believe that's it. I don't have anything else for you. Much love. We will see you soon. I hope you enjoy your Saturday. And a reminder, please do your own research. When you do, you'll never again believe all the horseshit you've been taught. Till next time, this has been Jeranism. Much love. Peace. Okay, nothing's working now. We'll get there eventually. Let's try this again. And peace. There it goes.